Dairy farmers in Kenya and beyond have had many challenges dealing with their dairy cows, especially around the period of calving, shortly before and shortly after. There are many issues that come around. Sometimes cows fall, others lose condition, and many other issues that farmers have been struggling with. And on today's episode, we have our very own Dr. Nikki Omoro, who is going to tell us about this critical period. How can farmers be able to tackle the challenges that they encounter and overcome so that their farms remain profitable? Kindly join us.
Well, a transition cow is basically a cow that is just in the process of transitioning from being in calf to the point of maturation. So when we talk about a transition cow, we're talking about a cow that is in between 3 weeks before it calves down and 3 weeks immediately it calves down. Therefore, when the cow is just about to give birth, we normally do what we call steaming up, and this steaming up is basically trying to prepare this cow for the process or maybe the lactation period. We are trying to see if the rumen can be made well prepared for rumination, so as to be able to be, to handle the challenges in nutrition that it will be challenged with, purposing to increase milk yield or milk production. So first and foremost, we are looking at how this cow can be made prepared for calving down. We find out that when the cow is just about to calve down, especially in the last gestation period, that is the last 3 months of the gestation cycle, a lot of calcium is normally being used by the calf. So that means that the calf needs a lot of calcium that is being sequestrated, that is being withdrawn from the mother's body for the purposes of bone mineralization, so that now when the calf is born, the calf is strong enough and can be able to move about. Okay. So this calcium is basically being taken out of the body of the mother, and then in addition, when now the cow is calving down, in the process of it giving birth, what we call maturation, there's need of calcium for the purposes of initiating that process of giving birth. So the contraction of the musculature to aid in giving birth needs a lot of calcium. Third, for the purposes of production of milk itself, for it to be manufactured or to be processed, it needs a lot of calcium and phosphorus. So basically, for the purpose of that, we find out that a lot of calcium is being used at this transition phase. So this comes to the point whereby when the animal calves down and there is any imbalance in calcium, or rather in calcium hemostasis, then the cow will be deficient in calcium, and therefore the cow begins to manifest symptoms of calcium deficiency. One of the common symptoms of calcium deficiency that will be manifest is number one, the cow manifests symptoms of milk fever. That means that the cow goes down or it becomes recumbent. So when that happens, then you see management must come in, and the farmer is bound to use a lot of money so as to be able to treat this cow so that the cow can stand up again and continue with milk production. Secondly, there'll be issues that are attached to metabolism, or what we call metabolic conditions, one of them being dystocia. So the dystocia comes about in two main ways. Number one, either when the calf is too big, probably maybe because of issues when you are selecting the breed for the cow. That is number one. So when we have dystocia, when either the calf is too big, or number two, there is incomplete contraction of the musculature, that either because of calcium deficiency or something of that sort. Thirdly, there will be an issue with the retention of the placenta, what we call RAB, or retained afterbirth. This is also under the influence of deficiency of calcium, because there is incomplete contraction of the musculature, and therefore the afterbirth can't be expelled out. So these are just but a few of the conditions that normally come about in the transition period. There's another common scenario that normally happens during the transition phase. You find out that when the animal just calves down, physiologically there will be an issue with its appetite. That is physiological. That means that you cannot do anything about it. However, you are able to now bring in the management aspects or the management concepts so that now the repercussions of the animal not being able to eat well is managed. So what happens is when the animal is not able to get the required appetite, especially when it just calms down, so that means that the intake of feed is lower than the demand for energy. And this energy, basically, it is being used for milk production. So because feed intake is lower than the energy demand, then the cow starts to mobilize its own reserves. So when that happens, then we find out that a lot of fat is being mobilized from the body of the cow, and therefore the cow begins to become emaciated. Now, what normally happens, there's a disease that is called ketosis, which normally sets in when the cow starts to mobilize its own body reserves. So instead, remember that these body reserves that are being converted into energy in the liver, and because the animal is already suffering from low energy because of insufficient feed intake, the liver is eventually overwhelmed. So the liver is not able to convert all the fats into energy. So instead, all the fats is being converted into ketone bodies, which eventually gets into the system, and the animal suffers ketosis. So one of the common ways of knowing that the animal is suffering from ketosis, because ketosis is basically a body wasting disease. That means that there will be continuous mobilization of body reserves without anything telling the body to stop it. Now, why do we say that ketosis is a very key metabolic disease that must be handled? Number one, we find that now for the body aesthetics of the cow, if the cow had a very good body condition score, but because ketosis is a body wasting disease, it eventually reduces, the animal reduces in its size. That means the body condition score deteriorates greatly. So aesthetically, the cow that used to be looking, great and well built, finally becomes very emaciated and very, very thin. So it loses its aesthetic value. That is number one. Number two, there is marked reduction in milk yield. For example, if the production potential of the cow was about 40 liters, when it is attacked by ketosis, or when ketosis sets in, then it reduces the potential to almost maybe 15, 20 liters. So if you lose approximately about 20 liters of production per day, that is a very, very great loss to the farmer. Thirdly, we have other metabolic states or conditions that can also come in still at the transition period. Number one, because of the same setting in of the metabolic conditions. One of them, of course, we have talked about ketosis. We have the other one that is called displacement of the abomasum. That is also quite common. The reason is, remember that now we have insufficient feed intake. So that means that now the rumen, basically, which normally balances the three other compartments of the stomach, if the rumen reduces in size because of course of insufficient feed intake, then it predisposes the cow to displacement of the abomasum, either to the left or to the right. And when that happens again, then it causes a lot of distress to the cow, and the cow is not able to consume feeds well, and therefore it directly affects on production. So they're just but among the so many other conditions that normally makes the transition phase or period very, very critical in the management of a dairy farm.
As we have heard from Dr. Omoro, it is important to take care of your cows in this critical period, the transition period, so that they are able to pick well and give you milk for a long period of time and be healthy, so that you will enjoy the benefits or return on your investment. That is all we had for you in today's episode. Until next time, I'm Dr. Paul Kangede.